cathedral buildings as symbols of the diocese's history, past, present and future. Three contrasting styles of architecture in the cathedral complex: Benjamin Mountford's superb example of colonial wooden Gothic, Charles Toll's English red brick choir and chancel, and Richard Toy's sweeping roof-lined nave and its welcoming forecourt reflect different strands of Anglican identity in the Diocese of Auckland. St Mary's illustrates a colonial identity through the way the building used new materials, but mirrored the archetypal church imprinted in the memory of people who came from England. Holy Trinity's choir pointed to a church and people in the 1950s that still thought of England as home and was still largely dependent on English models of being the church. The nave, in contrast, indicated an adventurous approach, building in sympathy with the Auckland landscape and cultural dimensions of hospitality and gathering. The large open spaces within and without the nave, and the side windows that allow people to look in, or from within to look outside, link the building and people meeting for worship with the world. Buildings do not make the church. They are the places where the church as people of God gathers. Nevertheless, church buildings do influence and shape people, and they have been noteworthy landmarks throughout the countryside, in towns and cities. Women, men and children have gathered together for worship, ministered and been ministered to in times of crisis, served the communities they have lived in, brought up their families within a Christian heritage, and lived out their faith. The diocese's growth from missionary and settler beginnings is part of a living legacy. Those who are Anglicans in the diocese today have inherited faith and traditions from the past, along with the more tangible property, buildings and endowments. The rich and complex history that molded Anglicans in the Diocese of Auckland is the starting point for the uncertain but challenging future that lies ahead. I'd like all the authors to join the three who are already here at the front. It's my pleasure to introduce the authors of this history to the diocese. Warren Whitlock on my left, Chris Holloway, Margaret McClure, Jeff Troughton, Adrian Pucky, Hugh Morrison, Earl Howe, Noel Derbyshire and Peter Lyman. On behalf of the authors, it's my great pleasure to present a college of the legacy of Bishop Ross. Bishop Ross received this history, may it build up the life of the diocese and strengthen its future.
Alan, before I say my liturgical words of thanks to you, I certainly want to make them very sincere to the group of authors and all involved in the production of the work as a whole. I think it is really important that we hear tonight. I'm glad you read that extract that drew attention to the nature of these buildings. We're on the site that Selwyn had envisaged would be the place where a cathedral would be built. I have the privilege of living around this site, of living in the home that Selwyn finally had built to be the residence of the Bishop of Auckland, to wander around buildings that were part of his legacy and his story. Every time I pass what we know as the old deanery, the stone building on the corner of Brighton Road, I think of wonderful words of Sarah Selwyn, who spoke about from the window of the house being able to see when their dear friend Coley was riding up from Koimarama to visit them. This place represents so much of our story. and the developing story through the architecture. Perhaps Selwyn had never envisaged quite what a cathedral would end up on this site. But it speaks of a story that reaches out and goes on. Well, and I had the huge privilege of being taught history by you when I was at St John's College. It makes it an extra special, personal moment for me that you would hand this history on to me now as the Bishop of Auckland. And it certainly is my prayer that as you once taught me, and many others, we would certainly learn from the story of all who have gone before us and carry it into the story which, by God's grace, we are able, yet with God, to create. I give thanks that this history has been produced. I thank God for those who have laboured for so long and brought it to completion. I pray that this history will inspire the people of this diocese so that the legacy will live on. Well, as has been indicated, we have copies of this book now to hand on to those who have been partners in this journey with us. First of all, Dean Yarn, it's wonderful to have you here representing the Diocese of Waikato and Taranaki. Of course, formed an early part of the story of this diocese to represent Archbishop David and Bishop Philip. So I invite you to come forward, receive copies of this book to return to your diocese and to your bishops. To my partner, Bishop, Hoka Kito. We've heard of the partnership between Ruatara and Marsden on that day in Uiki when the Gospel was preached on Christmas Day. And I rejoice that we continue to share in the partnership and our work between our Puemarangi and this diocese. It's a privilege, therefore, to be able to present you with a copy of our history. Specific people form a part of our story and our ongoing story. The work of the Diocese of Polynesia, still in this diocese, representing Archbishop Winston, the current Bishop of the Diocese of Polynesia, is the Archdeacon representing the Diocese of Polynesia in Auckland, Amanaki Tuatavaki. So Archdeacon Amanaki, please receive this copy as a gift to Tikana Pacifica with our love and our thanks for the story that we continue to share together.